who's downstairs waiting for breakfast to the vet, which means she can't have breakfast. So she's in an absolute state of despair and confusion. Her world has been turned on its head because after I put my coffee on the boil, I didn't follow her into the laundry to feed her breakfast. But that's not what this stream's about. I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. I'm going to actually share the concept work behind Touchy Feely, which I'm not sold on the name on. So for anyone, for those watching at home, yesterday where we got to was it was pretty great actually. Hang on, I might have two cameras here because this one's too high to look at. This is direct from the Connect. Also, it's a super red feed. I don't know why. Camera only. Let's do another camera. Once again, love streaming. Anyone that's watching this, I assume, is on Twitter. Coming through Periscope, I found this thing called Restream where you can do one stream and it goes to like every platform. It's pretty cool. No one's watching it. That's okay. Well, people are on Periscope, so Periscope's my audience. I got really excited yesterday because someone on the YouTube was like, "Oh, great stream. You need more followers. Oh, this is really great. Keep it up." And I was like, "Oh, I really needed that." And then I looked at their account, and it was like an account that like sells likes or something. I don't know. It was a bit of a bummer. This camera's supposed to be 4K. It's not 4K. Ugh. Get in the corner. All right. Anyway, so what I'm going to do today is stream my some of the design stuff that I've been doing for the project. So yeah, I'm basically going to talk through the design thinking behind it. I don't do enough design thinking. I am technically a designer that accidentally learned how to develop, but I still spend like 80% of my time developing. And I personally think that Streamview, yes, currently working on title, task, sharing my design docs for Touchy Feely. Am I coming through okay? I am coming through okay. Let's begin. So, I don't know, I don't need to go over there. One thing that came off the back of last year, like reflecting, was I hadn't really spent enough time doing design thinking, and I don't know what design thinking means. I know there's an official term when you do like flowcharts on whiteboards with change managers or whatever, but I just more mean like thinking and being creative and not just like doing development, because development is so all consuming. Like to get anything done, it just takes a really long time. So I'm just trying to like build back, like incrementally doing little bits of design work in my personal practice. I have to do a lot of design at work, but I want to be able to do it for myself. So this is the project that I'm working on. I was going to give you guys an update from yesterday where did I open the project? I thought I did. Here it is. Skip new version. Thank you. I'll just randomly open a new version. Sounds great. So where we got to yesterday, really exciting. Thanks for everyone that stayed along for the journey. Was that we added these touch trails, which kind of like, I know they look like just if you were like drawing lines in the sand kind of vibe. That's not what I want them to be. More like these kind of like ephemeral, like, you know, that physical memory of a touch that like kind of stays in your conscious. So it's meant to represent a neural behavior, which, yeah, we'll see. It jitters like crazy in the headset though, so because it's like it's all based on Oculus tracking. So anyway, on to the show. Exploring touch. So understanding what's possible with the Oculus hand tracking, understanding what we can convey without haptics. I used to work for a haptics company, and haptics is super important. Obviously, with the touch at the moment, what's accessible is there isn't any haptics, and it's incredibly immersive to actually have that sense of presence and see your hands, but touch is missing. Um, so my theory or my hypothesis, I guess, is that we can replace the things that make up a touch with visual, auditory, and emotional cues. So what I want to be able to do is make people connect with their digital hands a bit better, and try and create a sort of abstraction layer of other sensors that are meant to replace basically temperature and pressure. I was thinking about that's pretty much all touch is, and then the changing of those things, as well as probably some like chemical and physical understandings of the hands that probably come down to that emotional level as well. You know, where we experience the world emotionally. So it started with the idea, like I was just basically trying to think of this is over Christmas, what we use hands for. I was trying to think of a cool project basically to do with the hand tracking for the oculars. And I was thinking of everything you do, you're waving, you're gesturing. I was thinking of all the like Minority Report UI, cool stuff that is something I would love to explore. And it's like an easy win. And I was just kind of going down this rabbit hole of what hands are, and I came on this question like, what's the most satisfying thing that we can do with our hands? Because I was like, all right, well, if I can answer that question, then I can I'll make that easy. You know, what's the smallest thing you can do that people will like? Is kind of like as a when I'm doing my personal work, that's the question I try and answer. Um, Actually, yeah, I gotta, I'm gonna my mic might cut out when I was talking to so I presented this to my creative director yesterday. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm trying to figure out a way to, share my scribbly thinking, we'll call it. Anyway, yeah, that's right. I won't go meta. All right, so go back one. So yeah, I landed on the idea of touch as itself the most satisfying thing we do with our hands. Like if you really think about our hand, it's such a unappreciated but incredible organ for perceiving the world. You know what I mean? It's like touch isn't just uh, this information center. It's almost like its own emotional organ. The hand, but the most satisfying parts of touching are missing in digital tracked hands: pressure, heat, and emotional and chemical makeup that we don't understand. So I broke it down, like what makes up a touch, and I think sound, the rustle that says here, um, warmth, pressure, essentially. So there's these different temperatures that are like are touch essentially, and the speed that the temperature comes, the pressure of the object tells you about the objects, and the sound that the object makes as your hand moves across it. Those three things essentially is what I broke down into what makes up a touch. And so I was thinking about how I would break those down. So I sort of came up with this system, which you guys have seen so far, of having essentially touch sensors tracked using fixed joints onto the hands, and then those collide with touchable objects, which have a set of properties that trigger a roughness or smoothness, volume change, and the color change that I've been working the most on. Oh, my alarm's going off, which is telling me some information. That's all right. I was playing around with this idea of like this big sort of hamster touch wheel of different objects that would all have different properties, and as you move through them, you'd be like, oh, that's hot, oh, that's cold, oh, that's rough, oh, that's smooth, and I was like, that's pretty cool. We've got this sort of like Minority Report kind of situation, but in a hamster wheel of frying pans and pizzas and ovens. Then I was thinking kind of about the emotional side of touch is like the combination of context of where you are and what you're doing. When you're running your hand on this cool rough surface, it's my desk, my table, I associate it with kind of peace and calm and focus. And then, but if I was running my hand over a similarly textured cold lizard, I'd be like, ugh, that's a lizard. That's disgusting. So context is super important. So I decided what I want to try and do in terms of the style is hit those mechanical marks, which I'm pretty confident I can do, but also tap into, I guess, like a familiar feeling place. It's familiar enough for everybody. You're not going to be able to hit that for everyone, but I think that like homely apartment has appeared in enough movies and has enough shared tropes that'll do the trick basically. Somewhere cozy and warm where every object has a memory, which is, I've decided, the third sense. Um, so I guess my questions I want to have answered by the end of the project is, can we use sound and color to replace or act as a symbolic layer translating to haptic feedback? Can we invoke the emotional sensation of touch without the physical sensations? And I'll probably do some surveying afterwards to see what people actually do connect with and how realistic they need to be. I find that if you create a sort of simplified abstraction layer with especially sound effects and stuff like that, that is as effective as doing like a hyper realistic sort of full tilt simulation. It's less work too. So yeah, I showed you guys this before. Every object has a temperature that changes hand color. The hand movement generates a brushing noise. Each object also has its own unique sound. I've realized that's important. Is there's going to be this core bed of brush, but then I think every object that has a sound also has like a bit of a if it's frying pan, things like that. Kind of stretch goals, I think. I need to be really careful with this. I do tend to go insane with extra mechanics, and then I've just got this highly mechanized single experience, and I forget to do a story. But flex, I think, with like a compute shader, not a compute shader, sorry, like a custom shader, dust, splash. Then there's that line that we've been working on, which was not a stretch goal, but I just struck that in because I felt like it. So the next aspect of it is this idea of layers. So this was kind of the emotional mechanics, I'm going to call them. So basically just like visual layers that will add to the emotional connection with the scene. This is really important to me. I want to get better at developing a look and an aesthetic for my experiences. I've spoken about this before, but if it's only the mechanics, it's great for devs. Devs get it, and like game people get it. They're like, oh, I understand. But a lot of people, they really do like connect emotionally with their work, and I want to get better at doing that as itself being a sort of game mechanic. So these beautiful textured objects. So this one's by Marpy, I think, one of his. But it's just like an example of these just like kind of rich, nuanced, interesting like textured objects, things you want to touch. You're like, ooh, with a bit of like physicalized properties as well. Emotional haptics, new term, I coined it. This is more around the narrative, but tapping into things people recognize and have feelings about already that they can connect with on the touch. So, for example, everyone knows what it looks like to pick up a bunch of old bills and be like, oh, here we go again. Or, you know, mum's tablecloth that hasn't changed in 20 years and how that feels. Things like that. So, you know, connecting people, having those objects in the space and connecting them in using those other effects at that moment of touch, so that that touch is reinforced by that emotional response as well. Let me see if I can find the artist. I'll share the artist here. This is Dirk at work, and I followed it through a bunch of his tweets and stuff like that to find these other incredible artists that I was going to put here, and I will. Let's see. I will share these somewhere. Touchy Feely, Touchy Feely. I'm not going to drive design. What did I was trying to like do a like design thinking document. Touchy Feely development and design. Oh, that's the book I was just page I was just on. Nope. Sprint. Maybe I XR design sprint. No, it's like last year. Look, I'm gonna share these artists later. Unless I find it now. XR design research. Hey, I did it. here we go. Dave Chanel. Oh, oh man. So I think this is the guy from Half-Life. Not Half-Life, Half and Half. And this guy is my new love, my new angel. Oh, they're so good. They make me cry. So what I'm getting from it though is like these materials. These just like kind of like textured rough materials. This is all like going from this rabbit hole of like Dirk at Work, who I don't know his real name, so we'll call him that. That can, I think like part of what I like about it is it can trigger a sense of nostalgia. And I really want to explore that like illustrative 3D style. I just am in love with it personally. But I do think that the the materials will convey a sense of texture that I can then match with the sound effects, especially to create that sense of connection between the digital, the seen and the felt or heard in this instance. I'm hoping what happens is that really quickly sound translates to pressure and things like that. The environment, as a creative piece, I really just want to like I want to develop my own like look dev abilities, my ability to do like environment like realization. But obviously I'm just one person, and so I figured that this would be a really good chance to focus on a really small environment. And if I spend the whole year on it, awesome, like that's fine. Oh, that's the grossest noise. Sorry, everybody. um, okay. So finally, this is something that's a little bit different. I thought would be like a nice way for me to connect. Like a lot of the time, I have these like implicit. I have these implicit narratives in my head, that, like soft. I keep softly in my head that shape what I'm doing, and I thought it would be interesting to bring that out, and keep that almost as a north star. So this isn't a script. It's not a it's nothing. Well, it's the memory in the back of my head of this experience that I had when I imagined it. He steps into the room for the first time in a month. Their smells are there, stale and still, the sweet smell of home condensed after a long, exhausting holiday. The door handle, the grip of an old friend. Can I come in? His hand asks nervously, his foot already half across the threshold. Of course, right this way. Take a load off, it seems to reply. A pile of letters beside the door, organized neatly into stacks by Miss Mulner across the hall, from the glossy, asking playfully for life, to the dull, matte, immutable, demanding it. Neither will be satisfied for a long time, so they drop. The table, so carefully decorated with what little they had, she'd insisted that the thick woolen knots would give the space a warm center, a focus, a little patch of life dwarfed by the old heaving fridge. Things seemed to teeter when on that throw, but never tip. Salt shakers like skilled sailors navigating the torrid purple ocean. He runs his fingers through the weft and follows the line of dust along the back of her chair, up to the shelves she populated with rocks and gems, old trinkets from trips. Things he'd laughed at. Why keep a pine cone? He'd scoff. Now he knew he'd keep it forever, as he turns it over in his hand. So, yeah, I am hoping that, honestly, this is like obviously insane scope creep. If you go back to the question, what's the smallest, most satisfying thing we can do with our hands? The answer isn't have a visceral, nostalgic memory version of someone else's memory. um, but so the micro goal, and I'm going to write this down. I'm a big believer in goal setting, and well, like not goal setting. Goals are done. Value goals aren't done, but like value declarations. Let's call it that. The what am I doing? Oh, wrong Asana. This is work Asana. Which microphone is this? Oh, I'm not even coming through this mic. whatever, doesn't matter. Um, oh, so I like, I've been calling the project Touchy Feely, and then I started making the deck, and it just like this. And I was like, oh, that doesn't that doesn't look right. So I don't know. I'll just call it feeling sad. One of my first games I made was like on commission. Was like this like garbage simulator, and I called it. I wonder if it still exists somewhere in life. I called it Life is Garbage. Um, Probably not. I don't know how I would find it even. Um, I was an emo. I still love emo. Um, it's not as my pants are still pretty like I'll be forever wearing tight pants. It's my like equivalent of like suspenders and a fedora for my generation. There'll be all these like old grandpas dressed as emos. I moonlight as an indie now. Anyone would just be like, oh, I think it's an indie. Indie isn't even a word. It's funny how that word didn't really stick around. Anyway, so my goal this week is to make one thing that feels good to touch. Start with making something feel good. You don't want to make people feel bad until you've made them feel good. Add particle trail system is done. Look dev. Need to do the look dev on the particle trail. Smooth out particle trail system. System follow. You know what? I'm gonna try and have like bodies of work and then subtasks. That's what we've kind of switched to that at work a bit more. Smooth out particle follow. Get smooth out particle follow. Get a texture for background. Cool. Make one thing that feels good to touch. So I did start on. I wonder if I'll be able to find it. Maybe it's in the project. What have I done here? Oh, all right. Let's go to two screens. Stream two. I'm gonna finish pretty soon. Like I said, I got to take Mema to the vet. She would be here, but she's annoyed at me. So I've got to say it's very exciting having a board. That means that shit's happening. Can I just share? So, alright, if anyone's like super into emo stuff and sad slideshows, that part's over. It's Unity time, baby. You can get out of here. Let me talk about Unity for a while. No, stay. That's right. You're welcome. So this new layout that I've got for Unity is chef's kiss. Obviously, you need two screens. So I've got the entire project in list view. So there's no other view. It just has all the files in like kind of like Windows Explorer style. And then I've got the scene hierarchy here. So I can have all my stuff here and all my stuff here. It's very cool. Hang on, I feel like it looks like I'm looking away from you all, so I'm gonna flip this. Flip horizontal. Does that look like I'm looking at you all now a little bit more? Yeah, that's good. That's Hollywood movie magic. So I feel like I made a pot. I did make a pot. So I made this in Gravity Sketch. I'm so inspired by Dirk at work. Dirk, you're my hero. And Nam as well. Dirk and Nam. Anyone who knows Dirk and Nam, they get it. You get it. But Dirk works specifically Universe Pipeline Render Lit, Render Unlit. I think maybe, let's see. Ugh. That doesn't look like Dirk at work. Makes me sick. Don't you love it when you just like, oh wow, he's like talking about something that just looks so good. No smoothness. Smoothness is for, I don't know. Why do you look like that? Why don't you look like Dirk at work? Unity, why'd you change how the buttons look? So one thing I do want to do is, I should bust this project out. Alright, I'll share a project I did a while ago. Stream view, okay. What was it called? Overworld, Samuel Tate, I don't know. Here we go. So this was all done in Google Blocks back in the day. Here we go. So this plant, which I'm battering, it's all on joints. So I want to recreate essentially that. This is a little keyboard. Oh man, this is a shit game. I just quit. It got too hard. I'm just fuck this. Cause like I was like that thing where like I don't really care about game mechanics. I don't really like video games so much. I just like art and songwriting. It's pretty cool though. Look, little singing fish. But it was like classic rookie mistake. It's like, you know, if I had to just focus on this office and build a little story around it, 5 minutes of gameplay. That's all that really the idea had legs for, you know. But then it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Then you get the phone call and you go out to, hey Tony, you gotta pay the rent. Like, it's such a classic trope. Obviously putting your effort into it.
It's your landlord.
Made it so you could juggle. Made a made a teleporter that looked so much like a sex toy. But then it was like this full like open world sci-fi cartoon land, and it was just like, this is fucking gonna take me and Lucas, my like dev partner, like we worked on it for 3 months and got like that done, and just ran out of money and had to get a job. Classic. But anyway, that plant, that's I want to like recreate that plant. I don't think I'm going to do it with this though. I think I can do better. So this texture is done in Substance Painter. Let's get a light in here. I've been learning heaps about lighting from one of our art leads and our creative director, which has been really cool. And I've also been learning about lighting with I've been doing this illustration course. Okay, here we go. So look, I guess the question is, do we want to do this coloration? Like I kind of like this like jibber kind of visual effect with the texture, or if I could do it in shader graph, that would be very cool. Let's see what we can do in shader graph. Okay, search view. Time to search. All right. Actually, you know what? That's probably it. That's it for me. Stream's over. We'll do one quick search. We'll find a tutorial while it's in our brain. So yeah, shout out to Matthew Lyons. You're my hero. You're my angel. Create rough Dirk at work. Login. Oh, okay, no, Dirk at work. Dirk at work, shader graph. The shader graph still a thing here. What's that name? Dirk. I love Oculus Medium, but it's hard to create, so I thought, why not? Why not what? Why not what, Dirk? Oh my god, he's so talented. Fuck, that's so good. You know what's tricky though is like, oh my god, look at that, that's beautiful. That's making me tear up. Fuck. And it's crazy because it's like I've been watching these guys like explore like VR tools specifically since the beginning, since they got invented. And they were talented then, you know. It's like, oh wow, these guys have a style. And then seeing them like grow technically you know, I've seen all these like artists like learn about UV. Me, I didn't know any of that. I kind of knew about how it worked enough to build programs around it, basically. But seeing them become like super technically talented, and I don't know if look at that, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. All right, I'm feeling very inspired. So this is all with Gravity Sketch, which is like chef's kiss because you can do like I don't know what you would call it. Low. They call it sub D. I don't know what sub D stands for, but I call it Google Blocks mode, where you can like move and create vertices, so you can make whole hard shelled mesh objects, and then that means that you can actually use them in games because all the like tilt brush stuff and medium stuff doesn't really work for games. Fuck, what a brilliant talent! Oh, so he sketches out the buildings. Oh, okay, that's a good idea, Dirk. My man. All right, I gotta go take my angel to the vet. Thanks for watching.